hit the button. Now shut up now.
Welcome to 10 Forward, where our goal is to bring fun back to Star Trek. Please have a seat. The show will begin in a moment. We hope you enjoy. Peace and long life.
Now I got to figure out how to get us all back on here. This is the magic of live television, folks. There we go.
I don't know.
Welcome, everyone who is here.
Somebody was breathing really heavy.
All right,
It's kind of creeping me out.
What was there?
I'm fairly sure it's Ambassador.
I don't know.
All
right, welcome.
I'm taking bets. He's crying. All right.
Welcome to Let's Talk Star Trek, our 10 Forward Roundtable. We are going to talk about a subject I think is one of the most important topics in Star Trek, and that is the original series episodes, because I'm fairly confident my panel will agree with me in some form or fashion that is the what do you call it? The baseline, the standard, everything after that.
The foundation.
Yeah, the foundation. Oh, what do you want, son? You know what? What, you want to be on camera? Here you go. Turn on a light. There you go. Now you're there.
Hello,
my son has hijacked. Yeah, my son has hijacked my channel.
Nice.
There you go.
Well, what am I gonna do? I love him.
Remember,
but no. When I think about Star Trek TOS, and some of us have talked in different areas, in other platforms and stuff, about our what made Star Trek meaningful to us, and for anybody. Check with the Ambassador, check with Myrr and Chefzilla on our very first episode. We talked about what the show meant to us. And it was the gold standard. It is the show that started it all. Without it, there is no other. There's no Star Trek. There's no TNG. There's nothing past that point. So we have this thing where people say, it's just a television show. And I'm sure we're all guilty of saying that when somebody bitches about a show. But what makes a television show more than a television show? I don't have a definition. And if anybody does afterwards, you're welcome to say it. But let's look at the idea of a television show that became a phenomena. Let's go with that word, phenomena. It was 3 seasons, 78 episodes, because The Cage didn't get released until 1980 something. And it was a show that went into syndication. Before that, got 2 pilots, had Lucille Ball on its side, and then did 3 years, went into syndication, did an animated series for 2 seasons, went on to make movies, and the rest is history. So this is the gold standard this is the baseline, the foundation, exactly. So I want us to talk tonight about TOS episodes, your favorites. But before I do that, I do want to say this. Purple Lady, if you're going to be in here like you promised, you better be plugging your channel. I had so much fun. I know a lot of us were there at your launch today. You guys had a blast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walked it right in the middle, and it was extremely awkward.
Chefzilla, I think they knocked Chefzilla off his ass.
Oh, I was actually speechless, and that says a lot.
I can believe it. You were an army tanker.
Yeah, well, we started talking about Victorian porn and corsets and
yeah. And you know what? Don't spoil it for people.
And burlesque.
Yeah.
Hey, I was the first one. Hey, I actually asked the question. I didn't know what a burlesque was. So, but that's not what our channel's about right now. So, all right. So let's talk. We're going to talk about TOS episodes. I am so excited. I have an awesome bunch of co-panelists here tonight. We have the man who has always been here, the ambassador. We have the man who is going to tell me if he likes my wife's jam, Chefzilla.
Wow.
Is that an innuendo?
Like I was going to say, that's getting a little personal, isn't it? Wow.
Hot damn, chef. We need a review, man. Come on.
What can I say? When you got it, you got it.
Amen, brother.
And we have a man who has recently told us about some of his amazing purchases, but I won't tell you about him, Mr. Myrr.
Doing what I can.
Yep. And we are very honored tonight to have two guest appearances tonight. We have Captain Trek and Number One Sci-Fi. Guys, I thank you for coming onto the channel. I thank you for wanting to be a part of this. You guys, that was awesome that you expressed interest in being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So normally the way I was trying to run this was we go in a certain order, and it was actually supposed to be my day to go first. But since I have guests in my panel, I cannot, in good conscience as a host, go first. So, Captain Trek, Number One Sci-Fi, I will leave it to you two to decide who wants to go first. Guys,
Number One Sci-Fi. Number One Sci-Fi. Absolutely.
All right, Number One Sci-Fi. Talk to us about a favorite TOS episode. And, oh, by the way, guys, if you didn't know, this is not a PG-13 channel.
Well, duh.
Okay, I'm going to go off the board and say one of my favorite TOS episodes was Space Seed, because it led to, obviously, the best Star Trek movie ever, The Wrath of Khan. So, thought Space Seed was an awesome episode with Ricardo Montalban in it. I thought it was even the lady in the who plays Marla MacGyver's, I forget what the actress's name is, but I thought it was a very unique aspect of how things were way back in supposedly our time, where Khan left the Earth on the ship, and then eventually, the Enterprise rescues him and his crew and revives him first, and then obviously once that happens, then he studies all the information of the 23rd century, and then basically from there takes over the ship by then waking up his other comrades, and yeah, I mean, it sets the stage for the Wrath of Khan perfectly, if you ask me.
All right, Captain Trek, you are one of my guest panels. I would like you to continue on with that if Number One Sci-Fi has finished off what he wanted to talk about it.
Well, actually, my first favorite episode would have been Corbinite Maneuver, personally.
Nice.
I thought it was very bold, and it showed kind of a devious side of Kirk.
Yes, you must subscribe there. You must subscribe to Purple Lady's channel. Resistance is futile. You must comply.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah. One of the things I would have to say about Space Seed, yes. Look, I've been the first. I will tell this, and anybody who knows me knows this. My favorite Star Trek movie is Undiscovered Country. But I will say I have amazing respect for the range of what they were able to do with taking a character, because I've got to be honest, and this is my point of view, and this is from somebody who was not there when the show was originally done. But would Space Seed really be that good of an episode if the director did not see and know Star Trek and make Wrath of Khan? If there was no Wrath of Khan, would Ricardo Montalban be remembered so iconically like he is? I don't think so. I mean,
I have to say, I have to disagree. I think Space Seed as a standalone introduces one of Trek's best villains. And then when you throw on top of that, Ensign LaSalle, who gets, enamored with Khan as a history, as a historian, they created an incredible story there. And just between, yes, Ricardo Montalban is not Persian by any stretch of the imagination, but he created that suave, rather debonair, mustache twirling bad guy that was stronger, smarter, and bit more vicious than Kirk.
But I think I'm sorry, Chef. I'm going to cut you off here, but I think you're forgetting one thing that is always missed about what we're talking about Space Seed. He was all that, but remember, there was a key point to his character. He was respected. I mean, Spock even questioned why McCoy and Kirk would romanticize about this guy. And they said, well, he was the best of the tyrants, so they had respect for him. I mean, in the end, Kirk really respected him. And I think that's something that gets missed. Whereas when you get into Wrath of Khan, it's not that he got marooned there. He felt like Kirk left them there, and he felt betrayed because Kirk left them there to do this, but then he never came back and checked on them. And in some strange reason, he felt betrayed by that by Kirk. Well, now, am I completely off my rocker?
No, I mean, he was betrayed by Kirk. I mean, he blamed the death of his crew and his wife on Kirk and never coming back to City Alpha 6. So
5.
Sorry. City Alpha 5.
And not only that,
it's okay.
But
6 exploded.
Kirk also left a beacon there telling everyone, "Hey, don't go anywhere near this planet." He made sure that no one was going to go near City Alpha 5.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I actually talked about this a number of months ago when I was talking about Star Trek 2 through 4. There is actually a graphic novel and everything that's called Dark. I think it's called Dark Genesis. That actually is a fill-in between Space Seed and Wrath of Khan, where you are there on Ceti Alpha 5, and you see the events of what happens. And honestly, after Kirk and them leave, and they leave Khan and his group or anything with supplies and so on, and obviously the ship Botany Bay itself, or what's left of it, there's a split in the group because you've got one of the other superhumans that thinks that they are better fit to lead than Khan, and they split off and form their own little splinter group and so on. And what happens throughout the graphic novel is you have the destruction of Ceti Alpha 6, and you see the cataclysm that befalls the planet that Khan and his people are on. And over time, things just start to go completely sideways. Those little slug-like creatures that Khan puts into the heads of Chekhov and Tyrell start to kill off the crew. And obviously they kill off MacGyvers because Khan takes MacGyvers as his wife. And you get the impression that, yes, he is tyrannical, but in his way, and also seems like a very respectable way. He does love MacGyvers. And what happens is throughout the course of all these events, the pressure and the tension just starts to build on Khan. And eventually it leads him to become deranged and become insane, and for him to grow a very strong resentment towards Kirk. And it leads all, and everything ends right, I think, right when Tyrell and Chekhov have beamed onto the planet, and you basically you can pick up with the movie and go from there. So Khan, yes, he did blame Kirk, but it's a lot more layered than that. He just doesn't solely blame Kirk for no reason because he sees Kirk as an adversary, but because of everything that has gone so terribly wrong for him and his group. Because if you remember in that episode, Space Seed, Spock makes the comment, I would be interested to see in 100 years what fruit would have come from the seed that you have planted here today. So if nothing that had happened in that graphic novel had happened, imagine what Khan and his group could have done on that world. They could have just developed it into a highly technologically advanced, or just into a very interesting society. Because think about it, every single one of those men and women were superhumans that had been designed during the eugenics wars, which you get the full layout of the eugenics wars in the 2 novels that were done back, I think, in the early 2000s.
Yep, 2001.
Yeah. So they could have quite literally, if there hadn't been a bunch of infighting amongst them and the planet hadn't gone through that cataclysm that rendered it pretty much lifeless, SETI Alpha 5 could have been quite literally a paradise. It could have been a technological paradise run by the descendants of Khan and his group.
Now, with that being said, I am going to throw this in there. You're right about one thing when you said Kirk does bear some responsibility. He never even sent, there was no Starfleet, no Federation ship even sent to look at it. I mean, I would have to redouble check, but I think the timeline between the time they met in season 1 and the time they met in Wrath of Khan is what, 30 years, roughly?
Maybe.
It's pretty close. Anyway, it's a long ass time, and Kirk. It makes you wonder: did Kirk even tell the Federation?
Starfleet?
Yeah, exactly. Did he even tell him about this?
I'm sure they did.
So,
really?
It would have gone into a captain's report.
It was in his. Yeah, he would have had his logs. Now, the thing of it was, Kirk quarantined the planet.
Yes.
You can't quarantine the planet without Starfleet approval. His reasoning behind it was
right.
His reasoning behind it was so that Khan could never attempt to take another starship.
That, I mean, they made sure that, Kirk launched a beacon that just said, to say stay away from this planet. And I'm going to go back to what Ambassador said here, where, and also you, Jesse, where you were saying that, Kirk and Spock both respected Khan, but at the same time, Khan also respected Kirk because this was the first guy who had ever truly beaten him.
Mm-hmm.
And but when they go on to SETI Alpha 5, that respect turns into complete and utter hatred when he realizes that no one is going to come for him. No one's going to check on to him. And so by the time we actually reach, the Wrath of Khan, he is just bitter. He is insane. And all he wants is to kill the person that he once respected.
Well, and especially when he finds out how successful Kirk actually is.
Oh, yeah.
Admiral.
The way he says Admiral, it actually, regurgitates it out.
He's
so,
like, that son of a bitch.
We got to give Ricardo Montalban credit. The way he took, this is a guy who has a wide range of acting.
Oh yes.
I mean,
even
why?
William Shatner
Ooh.
said as
Yeah.
much. I was actually sitting on a Q&A with William Shatner and everything. He even said as much about Montalban.
Yeah, I mean, this man has range. We know him in many ways. And
Mhm.
this guy came back, got a director who saw his show, and somehow that director said, "Hey, this is how I want you to play the character." And somehow those two managed to put together the most Jekyll and Hyde kind of antagonist. Because I'm never going to call Khan a villain. I don't think Khan is a villain. Antagonist, yes. But man, just, okay, you know what? I don't care. But, I mean, think about it. He just, the idea of him coming back saying, "Hey, I want you to do this. I want you to be even better, but I want you to be even more ruthless." And I mean, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but as a guy who used to play role-playing games, it was always more fun to play the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Playing the heavy is a blast.
And going off of what you just said there,
Well, that's
it wasn't.
Oh, who'd we lose?
Captain Trek.
Yeah,
Captain
okay,
Trek?
Captain
Oh,
Trek.
what happened?
But going off of what you just said, Jesse, this is, Kirk and Khan are actually almost the exact same person, if you think about it. Because here we are, you have two people who are leading a crew of people. On one hand, space navy. On the other hand, basically religious zealots that think that Khan is a living god, and they are going to do anything and everything to protect their people. This is what made them such equal adversaries. And they're coming across from different, protagonists and antagonists, but they are also virtually identical. You could swap roles and they would still literally do the exact same thing to protect their crew.
Yeah, but I
Besides,
mean, you got to
different sides of the
remember
same
something.
coin.
Oh, sorry. Hold on a second, Chef. You got to go back to realize there is something people forget that, great leaders have, whether they're good leaders or they're tyrants. And you can look at it in history, charisma. And that's why
yes.
that girl, the yeoman who, the one,
MacGyver's.
yes, the one who fell for Khan. People respect strength and they respect, kind of a positivity and a certainty. And, when you have someone who is so certain, and I don't care, you can say religion, you can say politics, anything you want. The point is, you have certain people who crave guidance, and then you have people who can give that guidance. Now, whether it's good guidance or bad guidance, that's for history to decide. But I mean, when you think about it, yeah, I'm not saying Khan was not a bad. Look, I don't compare Ricardo Montalban and Christopher Plummer in any way, shape, or form. I just like that last movie and Ambassador knows there's personal reasons behind why that movie means more to me than the Wrath of Khan. But I get the whole thing. Space Seed really did lay the groundwork for Wrath of Khan, and you guys, your arguments and were valid. I thought if Wrath of Khan had not been invented, would he be that big of an icon? And you guys kind of countered me and didn't even realize it. If there had been no Space Seed, there would have been no Wrath of Khan. So
Absolutely.
thank you for the time loop paradox.
But still, I just think if you replace Kirk with Khan and Khan with Kirk, and they were in if Kirk was in the same exact position that where Khan was, he would have probably done the exact same thing.
No, I can't agree with that.
I can't agree either.
No.
I think
Khan was power hungry and a despotic.
you're right. You're absolutely right.
So
Actually, if I was going to say what Khan is, he is probably the gentleman's megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is, and don't get me wrong, he has all of those mental issues, but he also will do anything to protect his crew, and Kirk will do the exact same thing.
So I'm going to kind of interject here because you're bringing a little bit into darkness. We didn't get that from Wrath of Khan or Space Seed. His followers were there as his followers. It was Into Darkness where they introduced the, you'll do anything for your family.
Yeah, but wasn't this the exact reason why Khan stood down in Space Seed?
I would say this. I would go with this. Remember this. The difference between Wrath of Khan and Into Darkness is in Wrath of Khan, Kirk and Khan had met. In Into Darkness, they had never met.
This would have been their first meeting.
You have to take that differently. See, this is the thing, and I'm going to go there. I like those 3 JJ movies. You know why? Because I accepted they were in an alternate timeline. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I like them. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people haven't seen it. I don't give a shit. But we're talking about classic Star Trek, guys. Stay on point. Stay on target.
I was.
I
know you are. You always are. I had to learn from you.
Yeah, so Myrr, I'm just gonna end my argument with one line from Khan when he tells Kirk, "I would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven."
Yep,
that says everything about his mindset and the fact that he was willing to take his followers down to hell with him says it all.
Fair enough.
It does. I'm gonna give that to Chef there. Yeah. He quoting Milton, the Divine Comedy. That pretty much tells you his mindset.
I would say I'm not
That's
saying
not the Divine
exactly
Comedy. That's that
Khan is insane. You know that he's hands down nuts.
That's Paradise Lost.
Oh, sorry, Paradise Lost, not the Divine Comedy. My bad.
You know that Khan is nuts, but at the same time, he will do anything to protect his crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's the vast difference. And you see, that's why Space Seed and Into Darkness will fit, because you got to remember, he didn't have that hatred, betrayal, and anger towards Kirk because he had never met Kirk at the time.
That's true.
So it does make sense. And and also, I have a huge man crush on Benedict Cumberbatch. So, you know what?
All right, shit got awkward.
So, all right, I'm gonna hit it off with one of my favorites, and I was debating on this. I was debating Devil in the Dark or Doomsday Machine, and I mean, I love them both, but you know what? I want to talk about Devil in the Dark because when I said, what's that?
It's a great episode.
Because as I was thinking about it, Devil in the Dark is a much more layered episode than Doomsday Machine. And don't get me wrong, I love Doomsday. Doomsday Machine has some fantastic, and we can talk about it. But let's talk about a little bit of Devil in the Dark. Start out.
Hey, Jess, just real quick. I think Captain Trek's backstage. He's.
I think he's got
back.
it. Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Yep. Let's get him back in here. Captain Trek, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. Internet went out.
Hey,
It's
man.
all right. It happens to the best of us.
It happens, buddy. So we are now. I was going into just starting talking about Devil in the Dark. I was debating on talking about Doomsday Machine or Devil in the Dark, and I said, you know what? The more I thought about it, the more I said, I think Devil in the Dark has more layers and nuances than Doomsday Machine. And so where I was going was, let's think about the way this episode starts out. This episode starts out with a bunch of miners, and they've got phasers, and they're freaking out, and then all of a sudden you see this guy get He freaks out, that classic horror look, and they're like, tell you his name's Smitty, just like the other, sealed to a crisp or smeared or whatever. And then it goes to the opening. And first thing you're thinking is this is a monster episode. And then as the show progresses, you continue to see it as a monster episode until you start to put the pieces together and realize it's not a monster. It's a scared alien being. Not even an alien being. Fuck that. It's a scared native being trying to protect his children. So, I mean, and as a parent myself, yeah, I will do that. You can think about the things you would maybe not do, but when you're a parent, you're gonna throw a lot out the window to protect your children. Paternal instincts are unbelievably strong, and parents, when they're threatened, they're one of the most violent people you'll ever see. So, I mean, and they have to figure it out and they have to understand it. And it takes Spock to do it. And this is, I think, maybe not the first time he's done telepathy, but I think the first time he's not done it through a mind meld directly. So she's in extreme pain. So, and there's another nuance right there, that phaser type 2 put her in extreme pain, and she's still doing everything she can to protect her kids. And, once the miners, and this is where Star Trek was, once those miners realized and were told, you're killing her kids, you're doing this, you're destruction. They're like, we didn't know. We're sorry. They were like, and then at the end of it, it's like, hey, we productivity's doing great. These little guys go around, they do their thing. It's all good. And they were able to make peace. And it was like, there was barely any communication between the Horta and the Federation other than Spock. And they managed to coalesce, come together, realize they made mistakes, make peace, and not hold a grudge. And that was, in my mind, the idea of the embodiment of what the Federation is and what it was supposed to be, what we could be as humans. And with that, I'll let you guys try and tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, I can't tell you you're wrong about that.
I wouldn't tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, the first episode that
that was sarcasm.
First episode, McCoy says, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer, as a matter of fact, in that episode. But the brilliance of the writing on that episode is awesome, and you nailed it. It was this miscommunication at first. The miners not having any idea, thinking they're being attacked, to come to find out that the Horta is just protecting its young. And then once that communication, breakdown is fixed, how excited the miners and the engineers are, because the little guys are, they're getting more minerals, than in 2 days than they would have in 6 months. Yeah, it's an amazing episode.
It really is. And also, this is the first, there is that communication breakdown, but also there's the folly of, all of the life that we have seen, all the alien life that we've seen up until this point is carbon-based life forms. They had no idea that it was a silicon-based life form. They didn't even know it was going to exist.
Shit, man, Myrr, you're right. Fuck, I forgot all about that.
I was going to disagree with you, but I decided to supplement. So.
No, you're right. It was one of the, if not the first time they talked about non-carbon based life forms. Shoot. I forgot.
I remember. That's what makes.
I never made that connection.
Yep, that's what made the eggs so valuable, because the eggs are pure silicon, and so that's why the whole mining operation was there, to turn a profit. But then once you realize that it's the eggs of this creature, there's we're stopping this shit. this is not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. I had totally forgotten about that part, but it's like we said, it's how many tragedies happen because of miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a great and if I'm using the right word, and if I use the wrong word, somebody here smarter than me, ambassador, better correct me. Gene Roddenberry really was good at you making points by using allegory. Now,
Absolutely.
am I right? Am I right in that term? Thank you, ambassador. Okay, good. I'm safe. Okay.
So
And
yeah.
I mean, he could do it. So, all right. So I think we've hit those up. Who's next?
I'll go next, but to your point, remember there are only 79 episodes of Star Trek. Everything else is based on Star Trek, and what makes
Yes.
original Star Trek so unique is that every single episode has a moral. It's without question every single one. And so the one that the allegory from from that episode was, hey, it's that communication breakdown. It's just because life isn't as you know it doesn't mean that it isn't intelligent. So the whole thing was, if it's something that you don't understand, yes, mistakes can be made, but also there are the attempt to build a bridge between the two intelligent creatures.
Yeah, but I mean, even adding to that, remember when Kirk had to tell that leader of the miners that he's like, that thing has killed this
Oh.
many of my men. It's like, you've killed thousands of her
Yep.
children. He's like, what? And I mean, once he's told, and once he's like, he doesn't question it. He's like, this is not, this is a captain of a starship. He has no reason to lie to me, no reason to, he's like, we didn't know. He's like, you could see, the horror.
Yeah,
The oh my God, what did we do?
that's my
The
face just went
morality.
white.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the allegory of the idea, I mean, the idea of finding out you've committed some kind of horrible crime and not even realizing it, and then thinking the other person, I mean, the trauma you would go through. And I'm not going to go into politics right now, but I do want to say this. You can watch TOS episodes right now and find common denominators to what's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Myrr, what's your show? Tell
All
me.
right, this one is going to be a surprise to absolutely no one, but I decided to go with Balance of Terror.
Woo! Yeah, baby!
So, again, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen this. Everyone knows it's probably it's very heavily based on the 1957 movie in The Enemy Below. Again, fantastic movie. I recommend it to everybody.
Beautiful movie.
Yes.
Beautiful movie.
And
Yes, it
also,
is.
like, run silent, run deep. You can't mess around with, put both of them in there. They're fantastic.
Yeah, you know what? You know what was nice about those movies too? They were unbiased.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was pure military tactic, and it's
Exactly.
so. So Balance of Terror starts out with a very unconventional thing for Kirk. He's actually officiating a wedding between two people. And then all of a sudden it's outposts along the Romulan neutral zone are in trouble. They get sent off to red alert and battle stations. And now mind you, this is the first time they've heard anything from the Romulans in over a century. So what ends up happening is outposts along the neutral zone are being destroyed through a new weapon that the Romulans have had called the plasma torpedo, does immense damage, and can basically turn even physical shielding into dust. Yeah, it just completely loses its molecular structure, and it turns into crap. So this movie it goes straight into, again, just a pure military tactic, where Kirk is emulating the Romulans' moves, and they intercept a message while this is all going on. So they finally see who the Romulans are for the first time ever, and it turns out that, hey, look, they're Vulcanoid, which really pisses off the helmsman, and because he is extremely prejudiced against the Romulans because his father or grandfather died in the 100-Year War, versus the Romulans. So he kind of describes, if it's going to be the Romulans are going to have a bird of prey on the underside. That's how you recognize that it's a Romulan, a Romulan ship. And so they intercept this transmission, and Spock's like, "Oh my god, my dad's a Romulan."
I was wondering if anyone was going to.
For those who don't know, yes, Mark Leonard, who later played Spock's father, Sarek, was actually the guy, the head, the commander of the Romulan vessel.
No. You give him the respect he deserves.
Oh,
he was the first Romulan.
There was an older guy. The Centurion. There was his old Centurion that was also in there. That guy, he died. And
guys, you better tell Myrr if he doesn't agree with me, I'm gonna mute his ass.
That's fine. Go ahead. Well, no. So Kirk is watching what he's doing, and he's shooting off phasers to go and damage the Romulan vessel. And as the Romulan vessel gets damaged, sand somehow falls from the roof.
I knew you were going to bring that up because you told me. I remember seeing that on Twitter.
I love the production style, like sand and rocks. What the hell are they doing on a starship? So Kirk gets off a lucky shot, and also like debris actually starts falling, and it hits Mark Leonard and kills the head Centurion, the one guy who's in charge of the starship. But when it hits, that it's foam that hits him, so it hits him like square on the back, and it didn't hurt him one bit. But then he tries to move it out of the way of the from being on top of the Centurion, and the thing just doesn't. He's trying to try so hard to pretend that this thing is like 350 pounds, and I laugh my ass off every time I watch this show. At least the old ones, man. The production value is just purely awesome. But again, they did what they could with what they had. So anyway, look, this is a serious episode here.
Oh, this is an episode that, this is actually an episode that has a shit ton of meaning to me.
Oh, absolutely.
No. I mean, you gotta understand, Myrr, or Chef, or whoever the fuck said that. I blinked when the thing was flashing.
Yeah, it's me. It's okay.
Okay. Now I'm starting to get your voice. No, Ambassador knows this, and probably a few others in here might. But I was very fortunate to get to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation and Star Trek TOS at the same time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So so you understand. It was a great thing, but I mean, it's just an amazing, shows, and that's what I love about them.
Oh, I completely agree. This is why?
Yeah, but I mean, when you sorry, I had a brain fart for a minute. Forgive me. I was trying to remember what fucking episode we were talking about, and then I remembered. I was like, okay, stupid moment.
Okay.
But just the camera angles of the commanders and everything, and and I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. I watched this episode while Doomcock narrated it,
Yeah.
and he got to the end, and I mean, I respect Doomcock because he'll catch things that I don't, and it's nice because, I was always saying this is why I like Star Trek. We all have different things we like. Some of us like the technology. Some of us like the special effects, the models. So I know a lot of people who got into career fields because of Star Trek. So it was just crazy how that all works out.
Yeah. Again, I love this episode in particular. Just for the story, for for the production value, for even you can tell like at the very beginning when Kirk is officiating this wedding that this is going to be an uncharacteristically special episode because nobody with a red shirt died, but someone with a gold shirt did. So this was serious. So again, Kirk ends up masterfully, helping out with. Oh God, I'm losing my brain here. Kirk ends up masking his trail with doing lots of different maneuvers, trying to outsmart the Romulan commander. And while they never actually spoke to each other until the very end, there was this immense sense of respect that was showing up between the two characters.
Yeah, that's actually where I was trying to go with it before I had my brain fart. Was
I'm
at
brain
the
farting
end.
too. It's how it's rolling today.
Well, at the end, he's like, "Well, bring me your survivors aboard." He goes, "That's not our way. What serves the purpose of that?" He goes, and they go back and forth. And there's a moment, and this is why I was saying Doom got caught it, and I didn't even catch it until, he brought it up, where it looked like, Kirk was about to say something to the Romulan commander, and then he realized there's no point. I know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I may not agree with it, but I respect him as a captain.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and I miss that, and that's what I love about that. That's why I built a channel about this in that panel, because I want people to tell me things I might have missed. I mean, I could watch an episode of TOS a million times. I guarantee you, no matter what, somebody's going to see something I didn't.
Yeah. And again,
Totally.
that's why this episode this episode is very special to me. Again, I nitpick. That's just how I am. I always nitpick, and especially like looking at the production values and so on and so forth. But the story is it's hands down. It is top notch. And that Romulan commander did everything in his power to pretend like his ship was dead. He threw out debris, which included the body of the Centurion that had died, and then he threw out more debris and hit a nuke that was in the part of his self-destruct mechanism. Tossed one of those out there to see if Kirk would shoot at it, and sure enough, he did, and it caused lots of damage. And this episode was also a big trip on, well, for lack of better words, just had pure racism. You had Commander Styles. The second that he saw that the commander of the Romulan commander was Vulcanoid, he had a huge beef against Spock for the rest of the episode until the phaser relay went out.
Until Spock saved his life.
Yeah, the phaser relay went out, and he went down to phaser control, and Spock managed to save his life and pull him out of the some kind of a gas leak. And then unfortunately, the I think it was the lieutenant that was in the it was the same exact
the one who was going to get married.
Yeah, he was the groom
and if you actually think about this, And I don't know the allegory of that episode or what Gene Roddenberry was going for at that time. But if that is not a good allegory for how Navajos were treated during World War II as code talkers, because people sometimes couldn't tell the difference between the Navajos code talkers and the
And
Japanese.
Japanese.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was where he was going with it, but it might have been because he was a World War II pilot.
Yeah. And I think part of the allegory is war is hell. You know?
Yes.
You have at the very end, Kirk is trying to comfort the bride, or now the non-bride.
Well, and,
And-
we should have known that, with the wedding as the first thing we're showing, somebody's not going to make it
Yeah,
to the end of the
somebody's
episode.
dying.
No. We would know that now because that would be an obvious foreshadow. Back in the 60s, you would not have thought of. Back in the 60s, name me a time when a wedding started the show and a funeral ended it.
Well, it's not necessarily that, but this was a very common theme of those in like World War II and in the Korean War, where their families,
Vietnam War too.
That too. But the guys went off to battle and they didn't come home.
Yeah, I mean the trope of, oh, here, let me show you my picture of my Mary Sue. When we get back to the world, we're going to get married. That trope's been in World War II movies going back to the 40s.
Exactly.
So,
actually, Chef, I think that actually goes all the way back to World War One. I think it goes that far back.
That's like one of the things in the history of warfare. Men and women go off to war, and some of them don't come back. That's how it's been for as long as time itself.
Yeah, but here's the thing: when it comes down to it, you don't expect it to be you, and
Well, no, you never do.
No, you don't expect it to be you, but you still do some strange things to prepare for it, just in case you're wrong.
Yeah.
And, it's, I mean, crazy enough, I can tell you from personal experience, I know Chefzilla can too. I don't know. All right. A question here. I got a question. Who here is a Star Trek fan? Just check.
Me.
I am.
Me.
I am, or I wouldn't be here.
Wait a minute. This was a show about Star Trek? Oh, no, I got to go.
I'm sorry, Jeff. All right. So who wants to go next? Who wants to pick the next one? I think we picked Balance of Terror to death. And I mean, you could spend. Honestly, there are about 5 or 6, maybe 10 episodes that we could spend days picking apart and analyzing.
I'm about to be a heathen. It's like, this is a show about Star Trek? What am I doing with this thing?
Don't worry, folks. Right. He does that all the time. He's a rebel.
Yeah, he's
on probation. He's on probation status. Anyway.
I'm just a resident ass. That's all there is.
All right. So who wants to go next? Actually, Ambassador. Go.
Okay. Well, my episode is probably not one anyone's going to expect, really, because it's not one of the most well-known episodes, but it's honestly a very good episode. It's more of a character-centric story more than it is a dilemma, per se. And that's The Enemy Within. It's the episode. It's the episode It's the episode where Kirk's to the two sides of his id, or his personality, gets separated until you've got the altruistic and civil side, and you've got the more aggressive and barbarous aspects of his nature.
Yeah, like the more reptilian side.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I love about this episode is the fact that you really get a chance to see William Shatner. And I know some people have said that his acting ability is rather hammy, but in this particular episode is actually very, very good. And to be perfectly candid, this episode really gives you a picture into the mind of every person in this world and the duality of the human condition. And it all came about because of a transporter malfunction. And the thing that one of the many things that I really appreciate and I enjoy about this episode, it isn't just a very good Star Trek episode or a good science fiction series episode. It's a good television episode that explores something that we oftentimes have. Yeah, Sevs of Borg, the little dog unicorn. I remember that. Yeah, because unfortunately, in the 1960s, they didn't have a whole lot of budget for exotic-looking creatures. So basically, they just put a dog in a furry costume with a big horn on the top of its head.
Get over
Again,
it.
there's that
So
production value that made that production value makes the whole series
Myrr.
great.
Myrr.
I love it. I
Myrr.
just love it.
Myrr.
Yeah.
Bueller.
Yeah.
Stifle.
Okay.
Because it really gives you a picture of the duality that does exist in every person in the world, whether we want to recognize it or not. Because we cannot exist as a person without those two halves that make up the greater whole of ourselves. Yes, there is the side of us that is compassionate, that is caring, that is altruistic. But there is also the side of us that is decisive, that has to be aggressive and has to be able to sometimes make the hard decision, make that choice to send crew members off to possibly their death or leave them behind. And you can't have a fully functioning human being without those two halves that balance each other out and make us who we are as people. And I honestly think, and I might get a little heat for this. I think this episode stands above the Doomsday Machine. I think it stands above, in some respects, Space Seed, and I think even I think by the one thing I will say it's a good parallel to is the pilot episode, The Cage, because with what The Cage does, it gives us a picture of human beings in the 23rd century is when the TOS takes place. Because I know TNG takes place in the 24th, so I'm thinking this is 23rd.
Yep, mid 23rd.
Mid 23rd. Thank you, Chefzilla.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. But what Enemy Within does is it presents this question. Are we wholly altruistic? Are we wholly, I'm going to say wholly, I mean altogether, are we entirely just the good, decent person all the time, or are we a balance of both? Are we the good, decent person who will go to the nth degree to make the sacrificial act, or are we the reptilian side, the preservation at any and all cost? And the truth is, we are both. But the thing is, we are always struggling, much as Kirk was struggling. And I think the two halves of himself that were wandering around the ship were struggling with what it means to be an entire human being. And McCoy says it perfectly. One cannot survive without the other. You both need each other. And I might be paraphrasing, quoting here, because I've only seen this episode a couple of times, but it has really stuck with me. Yeah, Sevs of Borg, how insidious the evil side can be, and brave the good side. Yeah, absolutely. Very good observation there.
I do believe
Hey,
the
Ambassador, hold on a second, Ambassador.
Hmm.
I need someone to do whatever kind of snippet from the time Ambassador talks about this and make this a separate little thing, because the Ambassador right there just advertised exactly why I wanted to put a fucking panel like this together. He took an episode that many people probably would do as a throwaway, just put a compelling fucking argument into it, and has been making me spin my wheels like I'm really going to have an interesting time watching this episode next time, putting those in. That is why I wanted this kind of a channel and this kind of a panel. Ambassador, I salute you, man. That was awesome. All right, guys. What do you guys think about that episode?
Well, if
Well,
I
I
remember,
Try to- and by the
Yeah,
way,
go,
don't
Chef.
try to top Ambassador, because you ain't gonna do it tonight.
go, Chef.
Yeah, how can we call The Enemy Within a throwaway episode? It's the only Star Trek episode written by Richard Matheson. It shows a brilliant range with William Shatner,
Hmm.
and like Ambassador said, we are creatures of our whole. Id cannot survive without ego or super ego, just as ego can't survive with we're the sum of all our parts.
Yep.
It's a brilliant episode. Then you throw on the whole of course the transporters down trope. Everyone's got to be rescued on the planet, but we can't do it until we fix this without actually knowing what the problem is. It's a brilliant episode. I mean, and it's the 5th episode of the season, the first season, and it brought so much to the table. Now, better than Doomsday Machine? I don't know if I could go that far, but
That's just
Hey, Chef. Let's put it this way. I think I need a snip. I need to get that little piece of what Ambassador said. I need to get this copy, paste this, sent out, because I've got to add an attachment to this, because I have always said no. We can talk about that later. I'm not worried about that right now. I was getting to a point. That was literally like, just what I want to do. It's like, William Shatner has always been awesome. And, I would say, it's like, I think that he's had a bad rep. People are like, oh, yeah, he's not that great of an actor. It's like, what are you talking about? Do you know how many things I can name him in? I could probably name him in quite a few. Like, oh, well, he didn't do that. But I'm like, what do you mean? I'm sorry, but I'm a Rescue 911 generation guy. So I remember watching William Shatner telling me about life-saving stuff. So,
Yeah, this episode for me really showed Shatner's range. I mean, the way that he was able to pull off the reptilian side of Kirk was simply brilliant. And if I remember correctly, when he was getting ready to go into, he went. The reptilian brain also showed the fear that.
Oh yes.
He was going to do anything to survive, and the reptilian Kirk was absolutely terrified of being remerged. And again, to Chef's position, the allegory here is that we are the sum of our parts. We are compassionate. Yes, we are intellectual, but we are also still reptilian, and those parts all add up together to form who we are.
Yeah, essentially, and that's. And Chef, what I said earlier, I think in some respects this episode does have a bit of an edge on Doomsday Machine, but Doomsday Machine does have its strong points to it as well. I will give Doomsday Machine its props or anything just for the for the stories that it has inspired, because there's a very good TNG Next Generation novel that came out, I think, in the mid '90s called Vendetta.
Vendetta.
That, yeah,
Remember that one?
yeah, that blends the Doomsday Machine and the Borg and Picard's dilemma after his ordeal with the Borg. So Doomsday Machine is a great episode because it's a big mystery. We don't know where these machines came from, but in that one novel, we get where the machines came from. We get where
it was going,
where it was going, what it was doing. You get the interaction between the AI that's on board the Doomsday Machine that's going into Borg space with Picard, and you get Picard's own inner struggle and anything. But I don't want to go TNG because we're talking TOS tonight. But just there are certain parts of Emmy Within that I think are a bit stronger in some instances than Doomsday Machine.
Oh, Ambassador, I completely agree. I'm just kind of throwing a little shade for.
Oh, no.
I think everybody, every
fine.
Star Trek fan will list Doomsday Machine as,
Oh yes,
if not
obviously
their favorite, but definitely in the top 5.
Oh yeah, and I know that. So.
And it's funny because like we're talking about more of the obscure episodes. I mean, the Corbinite maneuver. I mean, Clint Howard and Tranya. I love it. And of course, Myrr, Balance of Terror. You can't go wrong with that.
Incidentally, Balance of Terror was the last episode with Ensign Rand.
It was. Yep.
Okay.
I love Star Trek. This is my childhood and adulthood all wrapped up into a neat little package.
Well, and there is one thing about Star Trek, the original series, that I do appreciate, because you have a very good character actor who portrayed another villain on another fairly popular and still relatively popular science fiction television show, because the actor who portrayed one of the Klingon commanders in TOS also portrayed Baltar and Gaius Baltar in the original Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
And honestly, I think that actor, I don't remember the name of the actor, but he might have been. I don't know for sure, but I just want to say the gentleman who, I don't remember the name of the actor, but he did such a wonderful job playing that Klingon commander. It might have been Korg, it might have been somebody else. I don't remember honestly.
So that was John Kalikos is the man who did it, and he played Korg.
Okay.
Korg. Okay, there we go. It would have been glorious.
Oh, yeah, Korg is so awesome. Oh,
well, not to mention we see Korg years in the future
in Star Trek 5, wasn't it?
In Star Trek 5.
Yeah.
When Kirk says, "When I get put out to pasture, I hope I fare better than Korg."
Yep.
Yeah.
You got or Core, yeah.
So, KOR.
Core, yeah.
Who dropped off?
Chefzilla. No. Sci-Fi.
Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
Oh, Sci-Fi. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sci-Fi dropped
out. Well, we'll keep a track. All right, I'll keep a track out for him. So, okay, cool. All right, so who has anybody not talked about a good show yet?
Well, I guess we're going to save the best for last.
Yeah.
All right, Chef.
All right, Jesse, go ahead. Sorry.
Piece of the action.
Yeah, piece of the action.
So January 12th, 1968, the Enterprise is on her way to Sigma Iosha to find out what happened to the Horizon. Kirk and Spock, McCoy beam down to a planet and are almost gunned down in a drive-by shooting because gangsters, 1920s Chicago mobsters, run the planet. Tommy gun heaters, the Model A Fords, and the best suits ever made. And we get the introduction to Fizbin. It was one of the first comic relief episodes. I mean, it was strictly built for that.
Mm-hmm.
We see so much from Kirk and Spock playing off of each other, especially when Kirk tries to drive the car, to the communication between Oxmix and Scotty and and then Kirk and Scotty trying to, you're going to put him on ice. It was such a great thing. And, when we get down to it, I mean, the talking about the Prime Directive, which has been a big thing up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk flat out says, well, the Horizon already
no, not the Horizon. That was the Horatio.
Nope, it's the Horizon.
Are you sure?
Trust me. Yeah, the Horizon.
Okay, now I'm gonna feel really, really stupid because I just got the Horizon on my shelf, and a couple of these guys can tell you I showed pictures of it next to the pasture.
Yeah,
So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will totally own up to it.
Yep, the Horizon visited Sigma Iosha 100 years before. She disappeared 100 years before.
Yep.
So that's why the Enterprise was actually dispatched. It's such a brilliant episode. It's fun. It's funny. And then the whole tie-in, you can see from my avatar, Kirk flat out saying, the Federation's moving in, see? Penny ante operation. You're nothing to the Federation.
Yep.
It's 10 minutes of just joy and love. And then the twist at the end where we find out that McCoy left his communicator, which is the base of all Starfleet technology. So as the ambassador mentioned, the comic book tie-in with Wrath of Khan, there was a comic book tie-in with Sigma Iosha, where Kirk is on trial for breaking the Prime Directive. When the Ioshians show up at the Federation at Starfleet headquarters with the 10% cut of their gross monetary production, wondering why no one from the Federation ever came by to collect. And it was one of the best comic books ever.
If there's one thing I love about Star Trek, it's that you can have such a wide range of emotion going off in 1 hour. That was always the thing that's what brought my father and I together when we watched Star Trek as when I was a kid. It is on one hand something I would find as funny, my dad would find it as serious, and again, it was just brilliant.
All right.
And it also shows.
All right, hey guys, I'm gonna say right now, I did do my research. You are right. It was Horizon.
Oh shit.
I am and no, hey. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with Myrr. I'm not a Drekkie.
Oh, look, I'm the same way. If I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it. But I was so throwing you shade, man. That's how I work.
I know. It's like, wait a minute. You're going to cross-check me on starships? Really? Okay. We got this down.
It was not a pissing contest.
But yeah,
you've been dying to get back at me for a while now.
Oh anyway. God, absolutely. And we can all talk about this because even Spock's brain, which is universally lamented as the worst Star Trek episode, still had so much for it. There was still so much in it that you could love or hate, but from Doomsday Machine to Space Seed to Trouble with Tribbles. How do you not love Trek?
Women. Okay, now you've got me going into one of my favorite episodes. You transitioned me already to Doomsday Machine. This was one of my earliest views of Star Trek. And like I said, I got to watch Star Trek, TNG, and TOS at roughly the same time. One was on, I don't remember, was it CBS?
Yep.
back
Yes.
in the 80s. I think so.
Mhm.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I was watching it at the time, and then I was watching it downstairs in my grandma's basement. Yes, Ambassador, I know you're laughing at that one because you've heard it about 40
No, I
50
have.
times
No, I'm not.
now.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm just teasing you.
I know.
I'm just messing with you, but
I know.
yeah, I'd be down there and watching these episodes and learning two sides of Star Trek, two types of captains, engineers, data. I became an IT guy because of Scotty and Data. They were my inspiration for why I became an IT repairman. I mean, I want to fix stuff, and that's what I always viewed them as.
Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?
Oh, you know what? It's so funny how many times I have to tell my own family that.
The monitor's not working. Have you plugged it in?
It's plugged in.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Never mind.
I can't find the power cord. Did you check the box?
No, I think the best one I ever heard was computer class, and in 9th grade, somebody kept asking where the any key was.
Yeah.
Where's the any key? I don't see it on the keyboard. Where's the any key?
Press any key to continue.
Yeah, Homer Simpson.
No.
Homer
I got one for you. 1999 December, North Carolina. I get a call. Yes, our printer has a virus.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh, the hell.
Now, do you understand?
I'm not an IT
all
expert. I
the
know the printer
context
can't get
I
a
put
virus.
into that? Do you understand all the context I put into the timeline? There was no network printer to where printers could have a virus at that time.
Oh,
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
That's not how the Force works.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no! Ambassador, I will mute you. We are not going there.
I'll
This
mute
is
myself.
a positive channel. We are positive.
I
If we
know.
want to do a negative channel, I will work on that later.
I'm
But,
I'm not being negative. I'm poking fun.
I know
Go-
you're poking
calm-
fun.
Calm your chest, man. Calm your chest.
Yeah, so,
Embrace your inner
Doomsday
calm.
Machine. Okay, so I want to talk about Doomsday Machine. Shut up, Myrr.
Look, I cannot
love
believe that Ambassador
All right.
went where I did not dare to tread.
What do you mean?
I'm showing respect, actually. That's all I'm saying. He went to some other series. That's not why we're here. So yeah, Doomsday Machine. Take it away,
Yeah.
Jesse.
It destroys
All
planets
right.
and it eats ships. And it's glorious because it kills Borg. And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah. Let's. No. That's okay. Look, you just cheapened one of the best episodes, Ambassador.
How did I cheapen it?
I think
did
you
I
did a
do
good job.
How did I cheapen it? And it drives Starship Captains crazy.
Oh man.
all right. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Let's talk about this.
You
That
can just
Doomsday Machine has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
you can
That's
just hear
just
the pain in Jesse's voice right now.
That thing has nothing to do with that Doomsday Machine. That's just the byproduct. Yes, it's very cool looking. It's massive, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the mental strain that happened because of that episode. And and I'll carry it on. Remember, this is Commodore Decker. Who was the captain of the Enterprise
Matt Decker.
in the motion picture?
Matt Decker.
Will
And Matt
Decker.
Decker was who?
Will Decker was Matt Decker's son.
Damn right. And that is one thing that has always pissed me off. They never acknowledge that in any of the movies, any of the series. I just a simple mention of it. Give the acknowledgement we all knew. I'm sorry, but putting it in a book or a tech manual is not enough for me. I felt he deserved that recognition.
Not only that, but establishing that connection would have established more in TMP how Decker took what happened personally.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah,
you can even make the argument that Kirk completely shafted the Decker family.
Oh
no! Hey, guys! It would have that little nugget of connection would have established why Decker, while respectful to Admiral Kirk, was hostile at times. It would have just look. We all figured it out later. We all know it. That's fine. We know it, but it just should have been there. It just should have been there. And look at the idea of this. You are in charge. And I look at it from a purely military perspective. You're in charge. You have your troops. You got something you can't beat. You can't. You try. You do what you have to do as the senior leader. You get your people out and you stay behind to cover them because that is the only option available to you for that. And then you find out that doing exactly what you were trained to do, what has always been ingrained in you, caused the death of your entire team. That destruction to that man's psyche. It's not, he said, I never lost a command. People might dismiss that like, oh, he meant his rank, his career. No, it had nothing to do with his career. It had zero to do with his ship, while that may have hurt. But it was, he had to make the choice. And he made the choice that got his entire crew killed. And that is a very, very difficult thing for a lot of people to do. Survivor's guilt. It is horrible to see what people go through that. And in the 1960s, even the Vietnam War, they didn't have a fucking clue what this stuff was.
Nope.
Not a goddamn clue. So, you can say Decker was suicidal. Well, of course he was suicidal. He suffered from survivor's guilt. He wanted vengeance. It wasn't just revenge. It wasn't a simple, I want a revenge. He wants redemption. He is responsible for what happened to his crew. And even though he did not succeed, his sacrifice ultimately led to the destruction of the Doomsday Machine.
Yeah.
That is how deep that story is.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking from something, I've known friends who have had to use a weapon in self-defense and killed an attacker, and just to have the death of somebody on your shoulders is maddening enough. But this guy had hundreds of deaths on his shoulders. That will drive you completely insane to know that you are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of people due to your actions or your orders. Yeah, I would go nuts. And you can see the mental state that he's in at that point.
Well, that's what brings about his obsession to destroy the Doomsday Machine.
Absolutely.
Number one, Decker was one of the most heavily decorated, commanders in Starfleet at that time. Kirk idolized him. So to thrown into a situation where you're going to get something that you can't beat, and then to just be beaten by it, and then make the decision to save your crew that ultimately dooms them, it broke him, and he was not in a proper state of mind following the rest of it, which is why,
Without a doubt.
yeah, which is why Spock was able to have him removed from command of the Enterprise, because he was not emotionally fit to command.
Yeah, he was emotionally
But
compromised.
only after Kirk said, "I am the captain of that ship. My orders are final," and he had the authority to do that because even though Decker was the ranking officer, Kirk was still in command in mission command. So Decker could not override him. That's one of the things people have to remember about how they were able to do that. There is in the military, Starfleet actually did portray this one thing right. The military, especially a naval fleet, the chain of command is not always as cut and dry as you would think. So they really played that in. And his only thing was he understood why they did it. That's why he didn't fight back. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it my way. And he goes on, he's like, I should have died when. Yes. Was he suicidal? Yes. Was his actions wrong, though? Because his actions is what ultimately got Kirk the inspiration to kill the damn thing and probably save trillions of lives.
Yep.
So he pulled it. So he pulled a Homer Simpson. He pushed the right button by mistake.
He pushed the Eddie key.
No, he pushed the pig. He pushed the pig up key.
He took a risk.
He did.
And his risk ultimately worked out. It worked out in the end. But it is sometimes, when you look at it, the one biggest thing is it is usually, from quoting from X-Men, and I'm paraphrasing, it is not often that great men live to see the achievements of what they've done.
Yep.
One of the few
And Decker was
one. X-Men Last Stand.
What was that?
I said one of the few good lines from X-Men Last Stand.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it is one of the factors there. And that's why it's a very emotional. Like I said, we can talk about the beauty of the Doomsday Machine all we want, and the theories of where it came from, and all the books and stuff that came out. But I focus on the psyche of it now.
Yeah.
My view on this psychological drama now, from the time before I joined the military to the time I retired, has evolved so much that I just see things so differently now. So when I watch things I've watched before, maybe 4 or 5 times, I'm like, I'm seeing, and even if I haven't seen it in a while, I start thinking about it in my head because I've seen it so much. And I'm like, yeah.
It's like Moby Dick. Is Moby Dick famous because of the white whale, or is it because of Captain Ahab?
Ahab.
Doomsday Machine is Star Trek's Moby Dick,
Yep.
and
Yep,
Decker is Ahab. So that's the
Oh
greatest
wow!
thing
I've never actually put that analogy together.
Well, I mean, they use the same analogy in First Contact. If you think about it.
Oh yeah,
because what's her face?
Lily.
Lily, yeah, thank you, Chef. Appreciate it. Lily's quoting. Well, she's not necessarily quoting, but she's paraphrasing Moby Dick to Picard and everything.
Yeah. And Ahab's got to have his white whale.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what she doesn't realize is she's hitting Picard like at his deepest core, because he is an intellectual and looks at that. So it's like that's what helped bring him back and helps him dawn on him. It's like, oh wait, I am Ahab.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get back to TOS though.
Okay.
Let's transition back to TOS.
To quote Jeff B down in the comments, Doomsday Machine music was epic.
Oh man, yes.
I was about to make.
This is one of the things I want to talk about is the diversity of ideas. Some people look at visuals, some people look at themes, some people look at music that captures them in a show. There's so many nuances of Star Trek that you can find beauty and terror and horror in. I mean, you can go anywhere in it.
Yeah, very true.
But what was the, I can't believe it. I meant to look it up, but I forgot. What was the episode with the white face, black face, white face?
Let that be your last battlefield.
That's the one.
Let that be your last battlefield. And, if that didn't sum up racism to the core, I don't know what does, but it was so good because, I was watching while I was doing some research on some TOS episodes. I came across some documentaries, and one of them being with the great bird of the sky, and he said I couldn't put certain things on because he said the censors wouldn't let it go, and I'm gonna be the one who's gonna say it because somebody has to admit it. I'm that right-wing conservative nut job everybody bitches about, says we're all backward.
Oh, you are not.
But
I don't know what you're talking about.
You are not. That's a lot of.
No. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah, and Jeff B.
Bible Belt,
Jeff B. is right about the.
No.
Sci-fi,
Bible Belt conservative South was very racist, and it took a long time for the conservative ideology to catch up with stuff. So, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that the ideology I subscribe to didn't have its screw ups because I don't deny history. But the whole concept of Kirk is like, you're black on one side, white on the other. I'm black on left, he's black on right, or whatever it was. He goes, they're all like that. It's like, and Kirk is looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? Kirk has no idea. There is no concept of racism or sexism anymore in the human culture. I mean, this is what made Star Trek the most beautiful concept. Not what we are, what we could be, what we could aspire to be. And when you watch that episode and you look at, and even at the end, they still go down there, their whole world is destroyed, and they still want to kill each other because they don't know anything else.
Oh, they're the last
And,
survivors. They've destroyed their society.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Jeff is right.
And they're going to kill each other, or they're going to die, and that's it. There's nothing left. And nobody's going to remember anything about them, except that they were a bunch of racist, genocidal maniacs. And I mean, who wants to go down in history like that?
Yeah, and Jeff B. is right. It is Space Jaws music. The music is exactly the same notes
for
what is
Doomsday Machine. Yes.
Yes, it's the same exact music as what was Jaws was based off of. Obviously they altered it a little bit, to change it up, but it's the exact same notes and everything.
Oh, really? I did not know that. You see,
well, John Williams actually learned from Saul Kaplan, who wrote the music for Doomsday Machine.
Yep.
So they were contemporaries.
Yeah, and that's well, and here's the other interesting thing about that episode. Let this be your last battlefield. The guy that plays the black and white characters, I think his name was Matt Gorsham or something along those lines.
Right.
He actually played Riddler. On the Adam West
on the Batman.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Oh man, I forgot all about that.
Caesar Romero, I think what the name was.
Nope, that's
No,
Joker.
No, that was the
That's Joker. Matt Gorsham.
Oh,
Played,
okay.
uh,
Right.
Matt played
Frank-
the Riddler.
Frank
Riddler.
Gorshin.
Frank Gorshin. Yeah.
Frank. Okay, thank you, Frank Gorsham. Yeah.
So this it's also very interesting to it's a Star Trek also reflected a lot about like what was actually going on in the world at the time, and Let That Be Your Last Battlefield was released on January 10th, 1969, right in the heart of the civil rights movement. And what's going on here is a perfect allegory of what was going on in our own lives. This is again, and this made it great to talk about because you're dealing with aliens instead of white and black, of different races of people.
Well, and the issue of it wasn't necessarily the racism, but it was an advanced, evolved society that had moved beyond racism, being confronted with racism.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be seen through those eyes, not our modern day eyes.
Yeah.
It was to give us that we could move beyond they're black and white on the left side and he's black on the right side, and they're you're the same.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they were, and this is where people misunderstand when I say something. People automatically think if I say you're ignorant, you're stupid. No, ignorance is an absence of thought of something. They were ignorant of racism because they had no reason to even think about it. It wasn't in their lexicon. They had no concept of that. They probably learned about it in history, I would imagine, through the Federation. But they learned that humanity evolved, and you would of course promote that kind of a concept. And so meeting a race of people who are racist would be completely foreign, alien to the people on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, without a doubt, man. This isn't. Again, it's just amazing how Trek can take what is happening in the outside world and put it into an episode that is so that you don't necessarily have to include what's going on, the characters of what's going on in the outside, but describe an equivalent situation. I just see this particular episode showed that so clearly. It was just great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else want to hit up it? We've already hit 90 some minutes. Does anybody need to go? I'm good with keep going for a little bit. I got nothing better to do right now.
I mean, there's still there's a ton more great episodes that we haven't even discussed yet.
All right, hey, number one Sci-Fi, take it away, man. Give us an episode you wanna bring up.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up one that specifically has, and it's I think the only episode that has it in it where Spock is in command, and that was the Galileo 7 episode.
Oh, that is such a good episode.
Yes,
that dynamic there between him and that doctor.
Bowman. Yeah,
no, it wasn't. Was it? But no, it was the other doctor.
Well, Dr. McCoy, yes.
Yeah,
obviously, but and then him and Bowman. Now, obviously, if the situation had been reversed and Kirk was on that shuttle, Bowman never would have second guessed his orders, but it being Spock and him being, a different race. Again, race is very relevant in this episode. And his, choices, and he is the most human, basically, in this episode, besides the ones that kind of mess with his mind, from dumping the fuel, which is obviously a desperation moment at the end of the episode, and igniting it to, just his choices on the planet and everything. So, And it's a classic episode where we don't really get to see the creatures that hardly at all, basically. So you keep them kind of mysterious and everything that are attacking the crew and everything. But yeah, it's a great dynamic between him and McCoy, basically arguing back and forth. Scotty obviously being there to get them off of the planet, and then Bowman, the character there, challenging basically every one of Spock's orders almost, in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, I think someone's snoring.
Yep.
Yeah. Somebody, hey, if you're snoring, get the fuck out of here, man. on.
That's awesome.
Oh, no way. This is exciting.
I do have one other episode I would like to discuss. And that
Well, hold on. Let's finish up with
Yep,
this one,
yep.
man. Yeah, it is a very good episode. This is the one with the primitives. They're like really tall with the spears and everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a good episode. You have the dynamic of Scotty trying to get the ship. You see, this is a thing that also we haven't really touched on in any episode we talked about. The specialties of the crew is laid out. Scotty is there trying to get the damn engines running. Spock's trying to do what he has to do as the commander. Also, the scientist. You got McCoy being the doctor. You got, the security officer who's also paranoid and, we can say xenophobic. You can call it what it is. So there were some aspects of xenophobia still back then. Prejudice, and that's okay. Not okay to be that way, but, okay that, it showed, hey, there was still that aspect of it. And it just had, awesome feeling. Yeah. Spock made, it was one of those times where Spock made a decision that, it was completely illogical, completely pointless. Calculations were completely off. And literally, he took a leap of faith. And it showed Spock could still get back. And that's one of those little nuggets. If you really look at Spock in the movies, that right there is a little nugget where you see he understands there's a balance between logic and emotion. And that's one of his points where he tests that water. And you really see it in the movies. But at that point in time, if you really want to compare a little nugget, and I could be spitballing, but I'm not because I'm right.
That's good. Well, I think we'll get to talking about the movies at some point. I think really the movies are more meant for character development than the original TV show.
All right. So, Myrr, what did you want to go with, buddy?
How about the Enterprise incident? Does anybody remember this one? This is the one where Spock uses the Vulcan death grip. So,
hey, it's a great Hey, that is a great episode.
So this one kind of goes where, Kirk is acting all irrational and ends up taking the Enterprise into Romulan space, where they are basically captured by, the Romulan commander, who is actually she's a rather beautiful looking Romulan commander, but the whole point of the mission was to, the Romulans are actually using Klingon ships. And so this was, this turned into a really big deal. They kind of want to, and also, their ships are also they have cloaking devices attached to them. And so the whole point of this was to get to get the cloaking device and, so that the Federation can study it. And so in the middle of this, Kirk has been acting so irrational. He's acting irrational on the Romulan ship. So Spock uses the Vulcan death grip and basically kills Captain Kirk, quote unquote. But what really was a very deep nerve pinch to falsify his death. And my favorite one was when Kirk actually, when Kirk wakes up in sickbay, Nurse Chapel is like, "There's no such thing as the Vulcan death grip," and Kirk is like, "But the Romulans don't know that."
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so classic. That was pure entertainment, and I can't remember if they actually got the I can't remember if they got the cloaking device or not.
Yeah,
I
they
think they did.
Installed, and we got to watch the first time an Enterprise cloaked.
Yeah.
So before the Enterprise D, before the Defiant,
Yep.
the original Enterprise, first one to cloak.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that they got it. I'm brain farting on this one, but again, it was just very interesting to show, like, Spock being used as a Casanova towards this this Romulan commander and trying to get her into his confidence, or vice versa, and so that they can actually get the get that cloaking device. It was just a brilliant episode. Yeah, that's all I got on that one.
And no, yeah, I mean, it is a really good episode.
Oh yeah, and then Kirk dressed up as a Romulan. They put ears on him. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
And
plastic surgery.
And they changed his eyebrows.
Oh, I like it. He's like, "Hey, I thought you wanted to come down here so I could pop those ears of yours."
Yeah.
And then, but what did Spock say? Something about "Sir, those ears" or something. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was kind of entertaining.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember too much.
Yeah, something like they don't look good on you, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And
Oh,
McCoy's,
Okay.
and
So
McCoy's saying,
Kirk said
you
he was
don't wanna
going.
end up being like your first officer, do you?
Yeah.
No.
Kirk said he's going down to sickbay to get rid of the ears. Spock says, "Please go. Somehow they do not look aesthetically agreeable on humans." It was like, "Well, are you coming, Jim, or do you want to go through life looking like your first officer?" McCoy said that. It was great. Yeah, that one was just a classic. I remember my dad and I were like, we laughed at that episode so great.
Yeah, they really had. I mean, the chemistry between those three was very good. They really could organically, put that humor together, and it just always felt natural.
It did, and even in the first season, even up until like the first, even with mine, the oh my god, Balance of Terror, DeForest Kelley was not put on the front bill. It would just be it's William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and so, but as time went on, people realized producers realized that they loved the banter between McCoy and Spock, and then finally they started putting DeForest Kelley up on the bill.
DeForest Kelley was on the bill seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the TAS.
Yeah, again, I loved him as an actor even before. He was in so many westerns.
Oh yeah, I grew up on westerns. Actually, I recommended to Chefzilla Valdez is Coming.
Yeah,
which is still one of my favorites.
And I still need to watch. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
You've been a little busy, Chef.
Yeah, man, you've kind of had a few other priorities, bud.
All right, well, look, guys, I'm gonna wish you guys all a great night. Great panel as always, and I'll see you guys next week. I gotta get rolling.
All right,
Chef. Take care, bud.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, there's a guy. I'm glad we're getting some good news for him.
Yeah, I agree.
But anybody got another episode they wanna chat about?
Yeah,
honestly, I'm good and everything. I gave the one I wanted to talk about, and we've talked about a lot of the ones that I already brought up. So I'm solid, honestly.
I'm totally good myself.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and call this a night. We are, Hey guys, great panel. Great. It was great to see you guys again. It was great to have guest number one sci-fi, Captain Trek. Although I know he dropped off, but I don't know what happened. But it was great, and it was nice to have you guys honor us with your presence. So
and great having everybody in the chat. Purple Lady, Jeff B, Lori Roberts, Sofsborg. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you all. We love having you. And peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.
Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.